Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, Rally? How you doing, man?
Yo, Ted, I'm doing good, man. I mean, it's Tuesday. The weather is beautiful outside. We've got Commanders football that's semi back. What else can I ask for? Let's get it.
Man, I know one thing I can ask for. Where'd you get that shirt, man? I haven't seen that one. Is that a Rally special?
No, it's not a rally special, but I mean, you just gotta look for it. It's there. It's there. I can't tell everybody you saw my sneakers, but I have to give you the same props. I like the black and white
Oh
that
yeah,
you
man.
have on, my brother.
This is the Sean Taylor helmet. For those wondering, you gotta check it out on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@DMV Mess Hall. You can find all of our episodes there. But I was at the team store because I went out of town and I got to film a TV show. I'll have details on that later on this fall.
Nice.
And I wanted to find some new gear. So I'm walking around the team store and I got this way beforehand, but I wanted to find something to rock that I could have for the show because they got rules on what you can wear. Couldn't have the NFL logo and some other stuff like that, which to me I think is ridiculous, but it is what it is. But everything I saw, they had nothing in my size, man. They finally had a John Allen black Commanders jersey. All they had was a small and a medium. They had new polos, mediums, and double XLs, triple XLs. It was just so frustrating walking around. And then I'm seeing what you're rocking right now. You definitely didn't get that from the team store.
No.
Not trying to blow up your spot, but I wish they would look at this because I do like that, man. I would definitely rock that out.
Yeah. Well, you can get it online, man. I mean, that's where it is. Okay,
I'll text you.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out later on. I mean, you always got some customized stuff. I like that baseball jersey you had last year, and I was actually curious. You were at the Defenders game this past weekend. I missed it because I was flying back from New Orleans and I was watching it on the plane. Not the same at all, but I was looking for you in the stands, man. I didn't get a chance to see you. How was the Defenders game? Because it was sold out and on TV, at least streaming it, it sounded loud, man. And I don't remember the last time FedEx was that loud.
It was loud, and probably the Giants game is probably when they were that loud. When we pleaded for everyone to come to FedEx for the playoff bound or playoff atmosphere that we had against the Giants. I gotta tell you, man, Audi Field is just a nice stadium, even though it's for soccer. I mean, it's got a dual purpose, as you can see, for football and soccer. And the fans showed up and they showed out. And it's weird going to a game when you're not necessarily the rally captain, if you will.
Okay.
It's just you're just being just an average person. Now, I mean, thank God for the show and thank God for being such a avid fan that I am with the Commanders that we are, that people recognize you and people come up to you and say, hey, rally captain, no W, no outfit, no nothing. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm just a normal fan today, brother. I don't take on the persona until, it's actually field time or game time for the Commanders. But it was good to see everybody. Oh, as a matter of fact, I see the picture that the gentleman took, and it was just an awesome vibe, man. It really was.
It's fun out there, man. I mean, I went a couple games earlier this season. I just picked up my tickets for the playoff game that they got coming up. I think it's April 30th. So I'm hoping to see a bunch of Commanders /Redskins /Defenders fans out there. I was just shocked that you didn't have a big old shield chain hanging around your neck, or you just saving that for the playoff game.
Hey, brother, let me tell you something now. If you like to donate for that, I by all means, I will rock one. But I'm a little tapped out, man. You know what I mean? We got a lot of things that are coming down the pipe here, as far as team travel, as far as my travel, as SB events travel. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff going on down the pipe that I can't spend all my money on everything, So
I
maybe
hear
I'll
you.
get a rally captain GoFundMe and you guys can help give me a chain.
Yeah, speaking of tapped out, I was worried because, we just got back from New Orleans. The wife and I spend way too much money out there. We're eating and drinking in New Orleans and hanging out. 5 days in New Orleans is 3 days too many, in
Ooh-wee.
my opinion, but it was a blast. Other than I'm not a fan of Bourbon Street. I mean, it just smells like straight piss. Yeah, I hate to say it, man, but and it just so happened the second to last day we were there, it rained about an inch. And I think they need that a lot because
To-
the walked around, it cleaned the streets out, man. It actually wasn't too bad after the fact, but in the middle of the day, just walking and you just get like a stench of, it reminded me of being in the Philippines.
Mm.
It's third world country, growing up out there and hanging out, and sewer systems are exactly the best out there, and just walking around downtown, middle of the day, no joke, 2 in the afternoon, guy
Mm.
just whips it out and just goes right on a garbage can right on Bourbon Street. So it was definitely got a show that I wasn't looking for, and a lot of good food though. It was fun. Definitely not as much fun as you had though at the Defenders game.
It's a trade-off though, bro, and down in New Orleans. It's a trade-off. You're either gonna get good food or you're gonna get good pee, I guess.
Got some amazing food, and I put a couple of recommendations out there. And I'm not going to name names, but someone recommended I go to this one place, and I looked it up on Yelp, and it had 4.5 stars. And
Okay.
I don't know if our server was pissed, but we sat down, and I had to do a live hit with Fox 5 back in DC Friday morning to talk
Mhm.
about what we're going to talk about here in a minute, the sale of the team. And we ordered some stuff. It got to the table and it was just cold. And the beignet you could have used as a throwing star. I
Oh
mean,
man.
it was just bad. And I don't know if that was them just being mad that I had to step away and do that stuff or whatever else. But for the most part, everything was delicious. And I can't wait to tell everyone when I'm allowed to tell everyone what I was doing when I was out there. But it'll be a good time once we actually get to catch up on that.
So my fingers are definitely crossed, waiting to hear what you've had going on in New Orleans besides eating good food.
Oh yeah, and we gotta hopefully be there. I think they said might be 2025 when they end up hosting the Super Bowl out
Mhm.
there. So maybe come 2025 we can take a joint trip out there and rock some burgundy and gold. Hopefully it's burgundy and gold because I saw your tweet to the Junks this morning saying they better not take that away from us.
Oh, brother, don't now they talk about there are a lot of things that so here we are going back through this again when they were talking about the whole rebranding of the Commanders and or making the new name from Washington football team to the Commanders. And we talked about that before as far as don't mess with the colors. I don't care what Tampa Bay did. I don't care that Tampa Bay went from their orange to the more red looking. I don't care about that. I am a Washington Redskins football team, now Commanders fan, which is burgundy and gold. And I'm not trying to buy more gear that's not burgundy and gold. But seriously, you want to lose more fans? I mean, that's the name is gone. So we lost a lot of fans with that. All right. We lost a lot of fans because of the whole name change. All right, we got it. You mess with the color, and I think you're gonna lose some more people, and they won't come back. They won't come back.
I was thinking about that this morning. And for those that don't know, I mean, there's a groundswell of Commanders fans, or maybe not Commanders fans, maybe Redskins fans, Washington football team fans that want another rebrand, that want a completely new name, and potentially want new jerseys and new colors. And I can't say I'll be gone, but I'll lose part of my emotional connection with the team if
Hmm.
they take burgundy and gold away from us. And Cakes on there was talking about it's like the Raiders being silver and black. That's what you associate them with. The Steelers being black and gold. Those are
Yeah.
just their colors. And yes, we've had 3 names in way too many years. And I hope to God not a 4th. But you take the colors away from us, you will lose a large portion of this fan base that will only come back if you consistently win. And it came out last Thursday. Sportico, I think, was the first to report it, that Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales, Magic Johnson had a formal bid of $6.05 billion to buy the team. So where were you when you heard it? I mean, my phone, I was actually on set filming the TV show, and I gave the wife the phone, and it was blowing up nonstop. And I'm glad I didn't have it on me, because they would have been pissed, because I had it on vibrate, which has been going off in the pocket the entire time. But where were you when you heard the news?
So last week, I'm on my bicycle, and I got everything hooked up to my headset, bone conductor headphones, so I can hear the ambient noise, outside noise. And my phone is going crazy, and I'm in the middle of this ride, and I'm pushing like at 14 miles an hour, and my phone is going, is this true? Have you heard? And I really couldn't comment, because let's face it, man, I'm getting my ride on, bro. And so the first one that came through, I thought, I thought it was a joke, because you get so many spoof, new owner emails or text or Instagram messages or whatever have you. And so I looked at it, and I just didn't pay any attention to it, because my mind just wasn't on that. And then another came in, and then another came in, and then another. And so I'm saying, well, maybe there's some legitimacy to this thing. Oh my goodness. But the group that I was riding with, not to say they don't care about Commander stuff, but we're here to ride. We're going to ride. You know what I mean? So I had to shelve my feelings for a minute and get my breathing back down, so that I keep up with them. But then once the ride was over with, I just couldn't believe it. And the young lady from 7 News, I think you may have interviewed her with.
Yeah, Olivia hit me up, sent me a text, said, "Can you jump on?" So yeah,
same. But I said, sorry, I'm here. I am now. You're not supposed to drive in text, so here it is. Imagine me trying to ride a bicycle in text. Oh, brother, it's not a pretty sight. So they would have thought I was DUI big time. So and I said, I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle of this ride. I can't do it, and so, but later on I can. And so she understood. I'm sure, she doesn't get turned down very often, but unfortunately I had to turn her down, because I was in the middle of my ride. So, but it was just amazing news. And I'm still surprised, really I am, that we've taken 2 steps forward in this many steps forward process.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this right now, it's Tuesday, April 18th. At 4:52, and we actually have AJ Perez from Front Office Sports joining us later on in the pod to talk about all the Commanders news and the sale. But terms of a tentative agreement with the Harris Group have come to light, and it's a non-exclusive bid on the team. So What that means is someone else can come in later on offering more money, and they can potentially then bid on the team and win the team. So Darren Haynes, a buddy of yours, came out with a story on Friday. Fast forward. The Sports Junkies, rewind this a little bit, actually came out with the same story, I want to say almost a month prior, that Brian Davis is a former basketball player for Duke. He submitted a bid of a full cash offer of $7 billion. $1 billion more than Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales, and Magic Johnson. Now, we knew about this. We didn't talk about it. The Junkies brought it up because there was really no validity in this bid, in my eyes, and in a lot of other people's eyes. Reason being, the NFL has rules. And going down those rules, the lead investor has to have 30% equity stake in the purchase. So that means Brian Davis, if he's going to do this at $7 billion, has to have $2.1 billion liquid. Brian Davis is not a billionaire. He is a businessman that has had some bad business dealings over his time. This is all public knowledge, not trying to slander the gentleman. He played for the Timberwolves. He won a championship with Duke. but reading a couple different articles out there, and we'll have AJ Perez to talk about it here in a little bit. This guy seems like a shyster. That's Tailgate Ted's opinion, not putting that out there for Raleigh or anything else, but he's from New Jersey, moved to DC area, went to Bladensburg High School, actually right down the road from me. But from a business perspective, he and Christian Leitner had a lot of dealings. He and Christian played basketball together at Duke. So they did a lot of investments. They tried to buy the Memphis Grizzlies and actually took a loan out from Scottie Pippen. Well, apparently the loan failed to materialize. Scottie sued them to recover his money, and Scottie only got back half of the loan. That's just one deal that they screwed up. Sean invested with them in their company, and Sean didn't get the equity he invested in, and actually put a tweet out about it, talking about it. And Sean invested $3 million with them, and then ended up suing them for $4 million and got that money back. So there's a lot of different dealings with these guys over the years, to the point of Christian Leitner ended up going back and suing the BDV company that he had started, because he was filing bankruptcy, and there was just a lot of stuff going on that they needed to do to pay back all of these different loans. Jeez. So they're saying he has a $7 billion cash offer that, and let me go back to the article here. According to the documents, Davis is going to offer up $1 billion to Snyder within 24 hours, and the $6 billion in addition will be sent 7 days later. Well, Davis is also saying he's going to indemnify Dan Snyder, so he won't be held liable for any legal stuff that happens down the road. Now, I'll tell you why I don't think this is going to happen. Number one, because he just have 30% of $7 billion. He's not on anybody's list for billionaire list. And he sold equity in his intellectual property recently, apparently, that got him a large valuation for his company that people have been having a hard time to find any details about. And the NFL has to go through and vet anyone that's going to buy a team. Where's the money from? The NFL does not allow foreign assets, unlike the NBA, to own stakes in the company. On top of that, the group can't have more than 25 people in it. No private equity firms, public corporations, or sovereign wealth funds can own any share. So I appreciate Darren Haynes coming out with this, because it was a story, but then you have all these Commanders fans that are talking, oh, well, slow your roll. Don't worry, Josh Harris, it might not be him anymore. You now got this other guy coming through, Brian Davis, and these unnamed investors. What do you think?
Well, I think that what he's doing is, as Judge Judy would say, he's puffing. He's doing a lot of puffing, basically, to make himself look bigger than what he is. Also, they don't know supposedly where this money's coming from, but I think AJ, I heard him talking about it on the Junks, or Brian Mitchell, that looks like his funding is coming from the Israelis, like the Live Golf Tour stuff. So if that's the case, that's a no-go. So it was a good 15 minutes of fame while it lasted. So move on and go to the next grift. I shouldn't say that, but go on to your next business adventure, because it's not going to happen here. And clearly, I think that getting back to the more realistic aspect of things, Rails, Magic Johnson, and they're the ones who pretty much are going to be the front runners in this, unless, once again, our boy comes through, but he said that he's not going to touch it. So let's go ahead and get this thing done. Let's dot these I's, cross these T's, and have this parade and be done with it.
I'm right there with you. And for those wondering, our boy, meaning Jeff Bezos, saying he doesn't want to touch a team. But let's go to that AJ Perez interview so you can hear what he has to say about Brian Davis and the sale of the Commanders, and potentially rebranding the franchise from the Commanders to who knows what. I want to welcome AJ Perez from Front Office Sports back to the Mess Hall. AJ, you can find him at by AJ Perez on Twitter. Has been all over the sale of the Washington Commanders, amongst a bunch of other stuff on his timeline. AJ, a lot of our listeners have been texting, tweeting, DMing, asking questions. What's going on with this whole Brian Davis news? Is this realistic, or is Josh Harris really the only viable bidder at this point?
It still looks like Josh Harris is kind of inches away from taking the team and getting the official announcement from Snyder. But this whole report that came out of Darren Haynes on Friday, and before that, the Junkies back in March, I had questions. I kind of just ignored it for a while. And Darren Haynes' report Friday really intrigued me, and I wanted to start to dig in to see what I could find. I talked to some people around Davis's camp. Didn't get a lot of details out of it, but I did find some LLCs that were created in the end of January, 8 of them. That's very kind of strange. There's still, I have a lot of questions, along with what everybody else does. We traced it. It looks, if it's real, it looks like the Middle East. Davis's camp says Israel, and one of my other sources said it could be Saudi Arabia money. But I've covered Live Golf litigation and all the stuff around Live Golf and how they've tried to launch their rival league to the PGA Tour extensively. So none of my sources on that end have gotten back to me and have verified that they are indeed funding Brian Davis. So we're left with looking at his past history of failings and business developments, and also business developments that like Pro Football Network reported, like in Atlantic City, where that looks like nothing's happened. He was about $30 million in debt from one North Carolina development. And he had to basically settle with that and sell out there, probably at a loss. So it's his people talk a good game. It's just they basically said we'll show it to Bank of America, who Dan Snyder hired to do the sale, and we'll provide the information to Bank of America and the NFL. Basically, we're not going to tell you. Basically, what I was left with.
So earlier in February, the Washington Post came out with an article talking about how the NFL might loosen their restrictions around ownership because they're having a hard time, as franchisers are selling for more and more money, to find a person that has % of that initial purchase upfront liquid. And none of that has been loosened. So that stipulation is still there. Is there a chance that if this bid is real and he has $7 billion in cash, that could be loosened? And if that were the case, what would need to happen for that rule to, for the most part, go away?
Yeah, at the last owners meetings about a month ago, I was trying to figure that out. There's not a lot of appetite to change that 30% rule right now among ownership. There are some owners that do, but it looks like there's not enough to change the NFL Constitution and bylaws. But there looks more likely that they'll be open to private equity investment directly, like the NBA and other leagues. That's something that's not allowed right now. It's just individuals, not corporations, not private equity, not anything else. So there's, they could see that, but that's kind of more to get, if you own a team now, to get value out of it by selling a 5 or 10% chunk to private equity firm. That's more of that, and they would be part of ownership. Potential new ownership going forward if any other team comes on the market. But that 30% rule seems like that even though it's very we're talking right now, if $1.8 billion Josh Harris has to come up with personally, I guess it'd be a 2 point something for Brian Davis if his bid is real. So that's a lot of money, and even if you're super 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 rich, and even if you're like in the top 10, 20 wealthiest people in America, you still have to move money around. No one keeps that much money liquid. That's why this process takes a long time. It's not just having to be vetted that you're worth that. It's having to move that money around if it's looking like you're going to be chosen as the winning bidder, and that process takes time. You have to divest either stocks, real estate, anything else you have that non-liquid assets to actually come up with that number. But that's why I reported back in November when this all started. One of my banker sources told me the NFL is running out of billionaires. Really, they are. There's the people who are interested in buying a team, who want to go through the scrutiny, who want to go through and then want to own an NFL team, which is an awesome thing to do because the valuations have just gone up and up and so far. 800. But when Dan Snyder bought the team, it took many years for the for the next team to sell for more than $800 million. But we're now at, every single time a team comes for sale, it looks like this, they're going to get almost $1.5 billion more, or Dan Snyder's going to get $1.5 billion more than what the Broncos sold for less than a year ago. We're talking insane numbers. And the reason for that really is having the 30% rule and having the debt guidelines is they don't want to have an owner come in and then go cheap on them. They don't want to, especially a team that needs a new stadium. That's the last thing they want. Going back to the Davis bid, one of the interesting things that his people told me is that they just want to refurbish FedEx. They want to spend $1 billion doing that. And I was like, really? I mean, that's like, I've heard building a stadium next to FedEx, a brand new facility, which could be a little more straightforward, especially more straightforward than trying to get RFK, which would need Congress to act, and then, DC to do their, environmental impact reports and everything else. But that's it. But then we have Virginia, somewhere else in Maryland. But yeah, this is the whole just refurbing FedEx. You can't really. It was when Jack Hancock built it and it opened in '97. It was already outdated. It was already, he built it for $250 million. Obviously, we have pipes failing. We have everything else. You can blame Snyder for not doing, not fixing, maybe making it as welcoming. All they've done is just tarp over seats, it seems like, at that stadium. So, they didn't really develop anything around it. Brian Davis's people said they want to build like a more build around there, build like, mixed use and stuff. But, that was shocking. I think fans probably really want RFK, but they definitely want a new stadium somewhere.
Oh, definitely. I mean, being a season ticket holder, I would love to go back to RFK, but as a DC resident, not living very far from that site, I know that the people that live there and the council are not in agreement with the mayor. So getting it there, there's a lot of different things.
Yeah, there's talk for affordable housing they want there. They want more parkland. They want things that's not going to be an NFL stadium where, 9-10 times a year they're going to have events. And if it's going to be a dome stadium, they're going to, which is the plan, which was Snyder's plan, which I'm sure the next owner will actually kind of pick up and agree with. Then they're going to have concerts. They're going to have other sports coming in. FedEx just sits there. There are concerts there. But it seems like more preferable is going to Baltimore to one of the stadiums there, or Nats Park for those kind of concerts these days. They missed out on holding the World Cup at FedEx. There's going to be there's going to be a lot more events than we're at FedEx. So that's another thing in the column where, especially with the residents there now, kind of not being in favor of, even having an NFL games there, let alone other events.
Definitely. And once again, we're joined with AJ Perez from Front Office Sports. And it doesn't seem to me that the Brian Davis bid is realistic. And you have a lot of people out there that are claiming, well, let's see what happens. But as far as I'm concerned, it's Josh Harris or bust at this point. And the only thing that I personally care about, a lot of our listeners care about, is when is this going to end? And when the agreement came to terms with the Walton family from Walmart and the Broncos, I think that was June 7th of 2022. Mm-hmm. And the NFL owners did not actually agree to it until August 9th, right around that date.
About 2 months. Yeah.
About 2 months. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing here that all of the information was given over to the NFL on the bid, mm-hmm. that the owners most likely aren't going to vote on it until May 22nd, the next owners meeting. Does that mean we have to wait another 2 months potentially after that for vetting, or will the vetting be done before the owners actually meet to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if kind of Josh Harris is trying to get ahead of the game and try to, share information to spur that along to make a vote at the May 22nd owners meetings that I'll be covering. Possible. There's still a chance. I think Josh Harris is a known quantity. Josh Harris went through the process with the Broncos. Granted, he didn't really get vetted by the NFL, but like Rob Walton did. But I think there's an outside chance at least that there could be a vote then. But it has to. We have to have an official announcement soon, if that's going to be the case. Because Goodell actually gets the application, and he could choose to investigate it, or choose someone in an NFL office to investigate before it goes over to the finance committee. That doesn't typically happen, but usually it's just kind of looked at and like, all right, we're good. Finance committee, do your thing, make your recommendation, and then after that report's done, they schedule a vote. Now there was a 2-week gap between when the finance committee for Rob Walton when they gave the recommendation and then they scheduled a vote. So there was a 2-week gap. Also that was part of the 2 months. It was like basically 5-6 weeks of the finance committee doing their thing, and then they scheduled a vote. It was a special meeting, so maybe there's a little more. You could probably cut that part out if they can get it done in about 4 weeks. But it has to be done soon if that's going to be the case.
No, it sounds good. I know everyone here is waiting on pins and needles for this to become official. And we had the original owners meetings this past quarter as kind of a date for hope that it was going to be done by then. And obviously now May 22nd is the next date. And I believe if it doesn't happen that 22nd, the next scheduled owners meeting is not until October, but they can call a special meeting like they did with the Salem Broncos to talk about finalizing this.
Yeah, they just all flew to Minnesota, which is kind of not the exact same space. It's all the same state at least as the next owners meetings next month. But yeah, so they all fly in and do it. It's like they did Zoom stuff during the pandemic, but it seems like they're back to meeting in person. So that could take some time to schedule to make sure every owner, or at least a large portion of the owners, at least 24 really, can actually fly into one event. And once we get there, it's almost impossible that the NFL owners would vote down anybody. So Bank of America would look foolish. Dan Snyder would be back to square one. So once it gets to the NFL, fans should feel confident that we're 4 to 8 weeks, let's say, before their Dan Snyder era is actually over.
So start applying for the parade permits 4 to 8 weeks after everything gets announced at that point.
Yeah, is there a GoFundMe for the parade? I heard rumors of that last week, and I'm like, you gotta get those permits done. And where are you going to hold with that? I mean, can't really do it in Ashburn. It'd be kind of boring if you guys did it here.
Yeah, I think going down the toll road in Ashburn wouldn't have the same feeling
Greenway,
as Constitution Avenue.
Yeah, but now there's at least we have Metro stop out here now.
That is true. And AJ, last question I have for you. A lot of fans, to me, seem to care more about a rebrand than anything at this point. And a lot of other sports publications have been talking about the NFL rule of having to wait 5 years in between rebrands. Now, what are the odds that, regardless of who the new owner is, they decide or can apply for an exemption for that rebrand rule? Do you see the Commanders rebranding with the Harris Group or whoever it may be at that point?
Yeah, Brian Davis really should have just hopped on this and said, "Yeah, we're gonna call the Red Wolves. I bought the IP. I bought the trademark." Now, see that was one way for Brian Davis to actually get his because fans care way too much about this. I mean, I think shouldn't the priority be getting a new owner in? I mean, it's like yes, Josh Harris could apply for an exemption and they could change the team name, but he has so much. The next ownership groups have so much work to do. I mean, there's so many things. The revenues are so far down, and there's going to be, granted, things will become, a lot rosier with the new owner, but there's still a lot of work. You have to figure out, we saw the NFLPA report. I mean, Ashburn needs to be refurbished in some way, and maybe an annex or something in the interim, because it depends on, because the next stadium could have, the practice facility and the headquarters in it, depending on where it goes. But that's a long-term thing. You need to make fixes now. You have to make decisions on, even reviewing coaches, reviewing front office, reviewing the entire organization, where the name is kind of like, yeah, the name's the name, but first you got to change everything around the team first. I mean, if you want, I understand the name wasn't popular. I don't, I'm not, I did, there is, but, it's, there's, and it does link back to Snyder, and people, anything that has Snyder's, fingerprints on it, fans want change. No, I think down the road, yeah, I think it'd be considered. But nobody I've talked to, even Brian Davis's people, have mentioned a name change as a priority.
So during your investigative reporting between the Apostolopoulos group and Harris and Mitchell Rails, no one's really come up with rebranding has been a priority.
Yeah, and but we've seen the kind of reports of Harris's group reaching out about the RFK side and doing things that really need to be done. A name's a name. I think maybe going back to the Washington football team, which a name I like, would be fine. But there's trademark squatters who will want a lot of money for those names, and you can mount a U.S. patent office or patent and trademark office fight to get that name, or you can just buy it for a lot of money. But because all the names that the fans want are owned, and you have to either fight for it legally or actually pay somebody off to get it. So that's and even the next name fans are going to have a problem with. oh, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. You can't please everybody. I think so. Like, I just don't understand that. I'm a Dodger fan. I mean, do you think there's any trolleys to Dodge in LA? Now there's no streetcars. There's a little subway system, but it's not just the Lakers. How many lakes there are in LA? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's just never. It's like, okay, Commanders aren't the the most glorious name in the history of sports, but there are a lot of stupid sports teams names out there, and I think but those aren't associated with Dan Snyder. So that I get that. So. But I think the priority, I think, for fans and for the next ownership group is just to figure things out, see what needs to be fixed. And I could lower on the priority list would be if someone gave me $50 billion for my IP, I have no idea what I would sell. It would not. I would focus on that, not the team name. And a couple years down the road, yes, because you don't want to rush a rebrand. The Guardians did that, and I guess you could say the Commanders did too. Because the Guardians got sued because they took a team name that was actually a roller derby team, and got sued and had to settle for that. It was I covered that. You don't want they're very complicated. There'll never be a fan vote unless you own all those names. The team is not going to do a fan vote. Will Josh Harris spend $1 million, $2 million getting 4 or 5 different names to fans to vote on? And then what? I mean, it's a very hard process, and it gets harder as time goes on because more, you look at the names of some of the startups. I know I'll watch a South Park episode. Remember, look at the South Park episode with Dan Snyder about naming stuff. Go watch that. That's basically where we're at. You can't. All the good names are owned by somebody, and you have to. And that it's a long process.
No, I'm right there with you, AJ. I really appreciate you taking the time today. You're one of the busiest people out there that I know, and I know you probably have another interview to jump on after this. So thank you for taking the time to listen to the DMV Mess Hall and talk to our fans here. And for those out there, please give AJ a follow on Twitter. It's by AJ Perez. Also follow Front Office Sports. And AJ, is there anything else you want to promote while you're on with us today?
No, that's it. Yeah, just kind of we have a newsletter, frontofficesports.com. You can register; it's free. And twice on the weekdays and once a day on the weekends. We get our features on the weekends, and every day you get kind of breakdown of all this sports, business, and cultural news.
That's awesome. Thank you, AJ. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me back.
All right. Appreciate AJ Perez for joining Rally and I. We recorded that earlier. Rally wasn't able to actually join, but really appreciate AJ taking the time because that guy is all over everywhere. I mean, every time I check Twitter, he's jumping on, whether it's with Grant and Danny or B and JP or the Junks or Kevin Sheehan. I mean, he's been all over this. So for those out there, make sure you follow by AJ Perez on Twitter if you want the latest and, in my opinion, most accurate news in regards to the sale of the Commanders. And it was nice to hear AJ say that from a priority perspective, talking to people that have been in the trenches regarding the sale and the Apostolopoulos group, the Harris group, and the other groups bidding, that rebranding the team was not a priority for them. And I know for a lot of Commanders / Redskins, whatever fans out there, they want us to rebrand. But in my opinion, I want to hear a 3 to 5 year plan on how are they going to make us competitive again? What are we going to do to stop being in the basement of the NFC East? And how are we going to improve the fan experience at FedEx? And where is our new home going to be? That's what I care about. I don't give a damn about a name at this point in time. I am tired of changing it. I just want to start talking about football and us actually getting our money's worth when we're out there on game day. What about you, man?
Well, I have to echo the same thing. I want to know, maybe not tomorrow, where the stadium is going to be, but at least let me know where you forecast it to be. Because right now, no one knows. Let's be honest. He could take over tomorrow, and a reporter could say, "Hey, so where do you want the stadium to be?" And obviously, the correct answer. And I'm going to say correct because I feel as though my finger's on the pulse with everybody else. We wanted it at RFK, but do we know that? No. We keep hearing Virginia, Dumfries, Loudon, back at FedEx, whatever. We don't know. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that just yet. But what I am concerned about is, what are you going to do for, as you said, fan experience? What are you going to do as far as pricing is concerned? Because now it's your baby. It's your baby. You got it. And B. Mitch always says the fans want to feel as though we're getting something, even though we may not be. What are you going to do for us? Because from my understanding, the phones at the ticket sales office have been ringing off the hook.
Oh yeah, I'm getting tweets from different people saying, "I'll see you this fall. I gave up my tickets beforehand. I can't wait to be back." And you know, I'd say that's maybe one of the top 10 hardest jobs in the US is selling Washington football tickets.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but before it was one of the toughest jobs to try and sell Washington football tickets. At one point, the sales team for suites reached out to me to talk about potentially helping them sell suites. Said, sorry, I appreciate you reaching out, but no, it's not a good deal to buy suites at a game there. I've got boxes all over the DMV, and buying one at FedEx is a bad deal. I mean, you heard stories about how Snyder had one of his assistants pour milk in the suite of the learners a couple of days before they'd come in, so it would smell like sour milk when you walked in. I mean, just stuff like that makes you say, why am I going to invest money in that? But now hearing that fans are coming back, man, and I can't wait to this fall. I don't want to fast forward because I want to enjoy OTAs and mini camp and the process, but I'm just envisioning this fall. And one thing I want to send out there is I want to ask our listeners, are you going to be at that first game? Or are you going to be out there tailgating? And I also want to know, how are you going to celebrate? What are you planning on doing to celebrate when the ink is dry, the sale of this team? And I asked AJ, brought it up, you know, the Denver Broncos sold, or they had tentative terms on June 7th. It took them 2 months later to have the deal final. So I think it was Sportico, they reported that the deals of the Harris bid went to the NFL to look at. This is not official yet. They're just looking at it. The NFL then is going to look at the terms and basically redline anything they don't like and send it back to the Harris group.
First draft stuff.
Exactly. This is common in contract negotiations and going back and forth. And we're talking $6 billion.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, Harris Group signs off, doesn't sign off, then they're going to send the official submission to the 8-member NFL Finance Committee to do their review. So the thing that I don't want to say concerns me, but I want fans to know is the Broncos were sold to one person, the Walton Group. I mean, the owner of Walmart, the Walmart family. That took 2 months. We're talking Josh Harris, who is a part owner of the Steelers. So he has been vetted partially. We're talking Mitchell Rales, who has a ton of money. I get it, but he still has to get vetted. Magic Johnson, ton of money, still has to get vetted. And there are rumblings out there that there are other minority owners that are all still going to have to get vetted. So I'm going to tell our listeners, let's just enjoy the ride. It is happening. And don't freak out if it doesn't happen May 22nd, because the NFL wants to make sure that all the money is legit. So maybe, you know, they'll have to call another special meeting like they did when the Broncos sold, but it is going to be here. And when that day comes, I'm not gonna lie, man, I'm gonna cry, because I never thought I'd live to see this day. I really didn't. I thought we'd be stuck with that little guy for the rest of our lives and have to luck box our way into winning like we have been the past 23 years.
Oh, wow, bro. See, when you say that, it makes me get emotional because I never thought it would happen either. He's a very young man, And we know how NFL owners or owners of a sports franchise are. Once they're in, they deep seat their claws and they don't get away from it unless something egregious has happened. Well, obviously, we've had 24 years of egregious activity, and the time has come. Like you, I have my seatbelt buckled. I'm not going anywhere. This is like the beginning of the roller coaster ride when you put that bar over yourself and you're headed up that that first drop. And most of the time, that first drop is the most iconic drop on a roller coaster. But that's where we are. We're in our seat. The bar has come over us, and we are starting to go up. And we are now kind of looking out at the park, preparing ourselves for that first initial drop. And like you, when it happens, look out.
I mean, when I did the interview with Olivia on ABC7, I legitimately, I had goosebumps, man. Just hearing it and just talking about it with other fans. And it killed me not to be in town when the news came out, because a lot of people got together at Old Ox and they were selling the Buy Dan beer. If anybody has an extra can, I would love one. I know Rally would love one too.
Definitely.
Because they sold out, man, in an hour and a half of that beer. And they're doing pre-orders now. So you can order it, and I think you can pick it up sometime in May. But just to be at the bar and in that scene, and just, I know I'll probably get arrested if this happens, but when the ink is dry, we got to get together at FedEx and just get out there and celebrate and pop some bottles together, have a cigar if we can't have an open alcohol container in public, but something just to be together when
it's
this
a done,
is,
bro.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I know we're almost there. Don't freak out, everybody, if this goes a little bit longer than we hoped. But it's like, you know, when you're growing up and maybe your grandma's making your favorite dish, whatever it is, and you can just smell it all day, and you're hanging out with your friends and you're asking her, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Because you're just sitting there smelling it. You're sitting on the couch playing video games, whatever it may be, and you just can't wait to taste it. That's what this is for me. It brings up that memory. And I can't wait for this to all be done and what the future holds for us, because we're not going to win right away. We've got a lot of work to do, but it's the start of healing this fan base and actually getting a chance to talk about football for a change instead of all this off the field drama. And Dan says, you know, Charles Gasparino put that tweet out there saying, you know, I went from 800 million to 6 billion. Suck it. Well, sorry, Dan, you're not going to be remembered for that. You're going to be remembered for killing this franchise and putting it on life support for so long. And I can't wait to be a part of the fan base that helps brings it back to life again.
So, you know, since we're talking about Dan, obviously, when I heard the news, I made a video of a picture that I took with me and Dan. And I got criticized for posting a picture with myself and Dan Snyder. But the music was So Long, Farewell, I'll Be the Saying Goodbye. And people just couldn't get past the fact that I was saying goodbye. You know, that's what I was doing. I was saying goodbye. But people, all they saw was me and Dan, and they're like, how dare you, you're a traitor type of thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys, you're not listening to the song, you know, So Long, Farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, I bid you adieu. You know, he's gone, or he's on his way out. And I don't even think he's even stateside, dude. I think he's overseas, you know. They talk about how he kind of made the mass exodus and nothing is in the office, nothing is there. So, you know, and I tell people all the time, you are allowed to have your own opinion. You shouldn't be ramrodded because you have your own opinion. Just chalk it up and say, okay, and let it go. But we can't do that for whatever reason. We just can't do it, man.
Oh, it cracks me up, man. I mean,
yeah.
John Kine was on with the Junks, and I was listening to his interview, but I missed the beginning part of it because I'm in New Orleans. I'm streaming it. I'm an hour behind everyone here. So I think when he was on, it was 7. It was, I think, maybe 6 a.m. for me. And the wife was not happy that we're on vacation. And I set an alarm to listen to sports talk. So that's a story for another day. But John, during the interview, talked about the rebrand that, we brought up with AJ. Well, the rule in the NFL is an NFL team has to wait 5 years before they rebrand new jerseys, come out with a new jersey style. So that 5-year mark would say, okay, hey, that rule, it'd be the same thing for the team. And you would have thought that I told people that the Commanders were moving to Germany or we were losing our franchise, the vitriol that came out of that. And I was just happy to hear that maybe we can take a temporary pause on changing this thing again. Maybe let's focus on the stuff that matters, like AJ was talking about, before we focus on the stuff that doesn't matter to fan experience and in between the hashes.
Yeah.
But no, everyone was yelling and screaming, I can't believe you like this name, this and that. We need to get rid of it. It's the last bastion of Dan. I was on with Fox 5 and my man Easy Street said the same thing. We got to change this name right away. That's the first thing. And Easy's my man, but I had to disagree with him. And I felt bad because we were on live TV. I'm like, Easy, nah, man. I'm over it. Let's wait and focus on the other stuff before. And they made a joke because, oh, you just don't want that gear you're wearing right now to be a collector's item and have to buy new stuff. So that's a portion of it. But I will buy new gear if the name changes.
Sure will.
But
sure
the
will.
thing is, let's just focus on the stuff that matters. Let's not
changing the name is not. It's not going to help us win.
No, it's not, and it's not going back to Redskins. I'm sorry, people.
Oh my God! Please stop that as well.
I don't get it, man. To me, I would love to know the people that want it rebranded if they're the Red Wolves crowd, because I would be willing to bet that a gigantic portion of them are the Red Wolves crowd that is just still butthurt that didn't happen. But you know what? Who knows? But Dan, according to the Dan Snyder Yacht Tracker, his jet is now back in Geneva, Switzerland. So saying he's probably not stateside. Granted, he might not be on this jet, but his jet is in Switzerland right now. And this was as of April 17th. It was in DC quickly, and now it's back overseas. So I think you're right, man. I don't think he's here. They cleaned all their stuff out of FedEx. They haven't been around there. The facility isn't the same to them. Let's just get rid of this guy and start talking football for a change. And speaking of which, OTAs, phase 1 happened this past Monday. Were you shocked, or did you expect to see Chase Young actually show up for OTAs this season?
I expected him to be there. And for one reason and one reason only, he's kind of on the hot seat. And when it's like when you're a kid and you did something wrong and you try to do extra chores to make up for your wrongdoing, that's what it kind of reminds me of. Now, Chase is a grown man. We know that. But he's smart. And the fact that he knows that, hey, I really didn't play as well as I could have early on. And then when I got back, I made a splash. But the fact is, he knows that he's on the hot seat, if you will. Or maybe his seat isn't hot. How about this? It's lukewarm, but he knows that at this point, he needs to do everything right to get back in the graces of his teammates, the coaching staff, because he's got a big contract that he's trying to play for and he's trying to work for. And not to say that you don't want to leave, but if you could stay here and make your money, of course you want to do that. So I think that's what the big deal is right now. He's got to do everything right to make sure that he's still in play, because the last thing you want is to come out in the first couple rounds and be moved on. You don't want that.
Yeah, it's a stigma that he'll carry for the rest of his NFL career. And they are voluntary OTAs. So you don't have to be there. And it was a big deal last season when he didn't show up. He was off training with, I think it was Von Miller, and doing other stuff and didn't come to the team facility. Well, day one, Chase was there. The media is not allowed to be at phase one of OTAs, I believe. And I think this Thursday, Martin Mayhew is going to give a presser for the media. So that's why you're not seeing any pictures out there, any videos, unless it was put out by the Commanders. Now, the team did do a video saying, "Welcome back, boys." And they showed Chase. They showed Terry. They showed Jahan and Curtis Samuel and other guys out there. So you kind of get a chance to see what's going on. But phase one, and this is from the Commanders' website, consists of the first 2 weeks of the program with activities limited to meetings, strength and conditioning, and physical rehabilitation only. So not a big deal, but you obviously want guys to be there and be around meetings. And it's also the first time that Eric Bieniemy is officially allowed to talk to his guys about football. Now, I'm sure EB's got a burner account and he's texting Sam Howell to get a haircut and, hey, this is what's going on with the offense. But it's the first time coaches can actually talk ball with these guys. So you want them to be there. And for Chase, the team has until May 2nd to exercise his 5th-year option. And NFL money isn't guaranteed, but he wants to have that option and that money in his pocket, because they're saying, well, he can use it as motivation to try and ball out like Duran did and earn that paycheck. Well, the team hasn't exercised the option yet. So they're gambling. And I think they're right now in the wrong. I think they should exercise this option because you can get Chase locked up. I want to say it was for $18 million. If he does ball out, you're going to have to pay him over $20 million to try and keep him. And that's saying if you don't tag him. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but who wasn't there that I was kind of surprised was Montez Sweat. Sweat did not go to the team's voluntary workout this morning, not related to contract, according to Nikki Javala, but he did go to the team meeting and will be in position meetings. So curious why he wasn't there. Not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, but it just kind of makes you wonder what was going on.
Well, the good thing is, like you said, Eric was there and he can talk football with the guys. That's always a positive, because I think for the first time they'll be able to hear and physically be able to see concepts that he wants to talk about and implement. So that's always a good thing. Montez, hey, he was there. He wasn't there for the first part, but he was there. So we'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Tez knows where he stands. Everybody's more concerned about right now what's Chase going to do. And Tez could be a situation where he's like, dang, I've been here all this time, and now all you guys' focus is just on my man versus, what about me? So he could be feeling some kind of way for a minute,
Yeah, he definitely could be. But the good news is there's a lot of days. Eventually, fans are going to get to go to OTAs. We're going to get to go to minicamp. The team, as part of a perk for being a gold member, had a sign up so you could meet all the rookies. I think during their session OTAs after the draft, I think that's full now, but they're taking a wait list. And I've got no doubt that we'll get out to OTAs once it comes.
I'll be there.
Phase 2 consists of the next 3 weeks of the program. On-field workouts may include individual or group instruction and drills, as well as perfect play drills and plays with offensive players lining up across from offensive players and defensive players lining up across from defensive players. It sounds unbelievably boring, but I can't wait to be out in Ashburn with a bunch of bug spray on and my little fan to try and, stay cool out there and actually watch football. And phase 3, if fans don't remember, is when they can do 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 with no contact. But the team actually got in trouble last year because of a couple of hits and guys going to the ground. So you do get a chance to see some stuff.
So when does EB get to give the players a playbook?
It wouldn't surprise me if that's something they got now. I mean,
Right.
you're having meetings, you're installing things, and that's
Yeah.
what was frustrating to me when you've got guys holding out. You're laying that foundation for the upcoming season.
Right.
You got to lay that foundation from day one. And yes, it's voluntary, but more so it's voluntold. You should be there. And when
Definitely.
Trent Williams missed it, I didn't care. The guy is an all-pro. But
Yeah.
sorry, the only all-pro we have on our team, I think, was Jeremy Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anyone else that was an all-pro. I know Jeremy was on the Pro Bowl. And on top of that, Jeremy actually signed a new contract. Well, actually extended his contract tender, and he's getting paid $2.6 million. So he's going from a undrafted rookie to this team, and now he signed his original round tender at $2.6 million. So couldn't be happier for that guy.
Yeah.
And
it goes to show you work hard and you get rewarded. And I have a feeling that he'll do well this year and he'll even make more money.
yeah, and I'm hoping that this is the sign of negotiations to start happening with other guys, like potentially Montez Sweat, like Cam Curl, before his dad tweets something out again and says something dumb on Twitter. Someone should have his account locked up. But, they negotiated these things last time before the draft. The draft is just next week. It's so hard to believe that we haven't had football for 4 months and the draft is here. And it's going to be telling on what these guys want to do based upon who we end up taking those first couple rounds.
We pick up. Yeah, you're right. And I look forward to it, brother. I hate the fact that I'm not going to be in Kansas City, but hey, work calls. So I got to do my thing at the job, but I know who butters my bread, but I will be watching it. So, and I will be looking for everyone who made the trip out to Kansas City on the television and waving at you guys from afar.
Yeah, I was in the inner circle during COVID 2020. So the inner circle is all those fans that are out there hanging out. And we did a virtual inner circle where I had to make a fake man cave in my townhouse downstairs and sit there for hours waiting for the NFL to come back and cut to us so they could show Commanders fans cheering on a Zoom screen. But I'm hoping one day I can get out there in person and actually be there for the draft, just like some of our friends are going to be this weekend or next weekend.
Yeah. Well, let's just plan on next year doing it, man. Let's just do it.
I'm down, man. Regardless of what we're going to be called, I'll be down there next year. Let's do this.
Yep, I'm with you, brother. Hey, thank you guys once again for watching, listening. Please subscribe. Tell your friends about the DMV Mess Hall. We really appreciate it. Once again, it goes a long way. And you could have been any place in the world, but you decided to listen to us now. Remember, guys, rep it hard or don't rep it at all. Rally Captain, Tailgate Ted. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Peace.